The massive window of Earth's orbital diplomatic center displayed a sight that still amazed Captain James Walker: the shimmering forms of crystalline ships floating alongside the organic-looking vessels of the Alliance. Both alien fleets kept their weapons trained on each other, even during peace talks. 100 years of human space exploration hadn't prepared them for this. "Captain, the Unity Collective's representative has arrived," said Tom, his assistant. The young man's voice carried a hint of nervousness that Walker understood all too well. After all, it wasn't every day that humanity hosted beings who had been fighting a war longer than Earth had known about electricity. The Unity representative glided into the room, its crystalline form catching the light from Earth below. The being stood nearly 9 feet tall, with faceted surfaces that shifted colors as it moved. Walker had learned that these color changes were their primary form of expression, though they had adapted sound-based communication for dealing with organic species. "We appreciate Earth's offer of neutral ground." The being's translated voice emerged from a small device floating beside it. "Though we question the wisdom of involving such a young species in matters beyond their understanding." Walker kept his face neutral, though inside he smiled at the familiar condescension. Every advanced species they'd met had the same reaction to humans, seeing them as children who had barely learned to walk among the stars. The door chimed again, and the Organic Alliance representative entered. The Alliance member was a stark contrast to the crystalline being, a mass of shifting biological matter contained within an environmental suit. These beings had evolved from collective bacterial colonies, developing intelligence through vast neural networks. Their representative pulsed with patterns that their translator converted to words. "The Alliance acknowledges Earth's position," it communicated, "though we share our Unity opponents' concerns about your species' involvement." Walker stood between them, acutely aware that these two beings represented civilizations that had been trying to destroy each other since before humans had invented the wheel. The war had consumed thousands of worlds, countless lives, and showed no signs of ending. Until now, perhaps. Earth thanks both the Unity Collective and the Organic Alliance for accepting our invitation, Walker said carefully. "We've studied the history of your conflict since first contact 3 years ago. We believe we can offer a unique perspective." Both aliens shifted, one in crystalline patterns, the other in organic pulses, showing what Walker had learned to recognize as diplomatic amusement, the kind reserved for children trying to advise adults. "Your species has only recently achieved faster-than-light travel," the Unity being stated. "The complexities of this war are exactly why you need fresh eyes," Walker interrupted, breaking standard diplomatic protocol. The aliens' surprise registered in their movements. "Your war began over resource rights to the Centaurus armed sectors. But in 3 centuries of fighting, those sectors have become uninhabitable. Now you fight because you've always fought." The Alliance representative pulsed rapidly. "You oversimplify the fundamental differences between crystalline and organic life. Haven't stopped you from using the same space stations, the same trade routes, or even the same translators," Walker pressed on. "We've reviewed your history. Before the war, Unity and Alliance species collaborated on some of the greatest achievements in the galaxy. You built wonders together." The room fell silent. Walker could feel Tom's tension behind him, but he continued. "Earth has been granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council. We've chosen to use that position to propose a solution. My team has prepared what we call Project Sunset, another peace proposal." The Unity being's colors shifted to what humans had learned meant skepticism. "The Council has reviewed thousands. Not like this one," Walker said firmly. "Because this one comes with a deadline. 24 Earth hours." The alien representatives showed their respective versions of shock. In a galaxy where diplomatic proposals typically took years to even be considered, the idea seemed ludicrous. "Impossible," both beings said almost simultaneously. Walker smiled. "That's what makes it possible. You've both spent centuries thinking in terms of decades and centuries. But humans? We think in days, hours, minutes. We know we don't have centuries to waste." My team has prepared demonstration sites across 3 neutral systems. We'll show you how this works, practically, not theoretically. The crystalline being vibrated slightly, a sign of agitation. Your species cannot possibly. We can, and we will, Walker said. The demonstrations begin in 1 hour. You can either participate in them, or watch as we show the rest of the galaxy that peace is possible. Your choice. He gestured to Tom, who began transmitting the project details to both parties. The sun will set on Earth in 24 hours. By then, you'll either have a path to peace, or you'll have to explain to your people why you refuse to even consider it. The 2 ancient enemies looked at each other, then back at the human. For the first time in centuries, the Unity Collective and the Organic Alliance found themselves sharing the same thought. These humans were either brilliant or insane, possibly both. In the lower levels of Earth's orbital diplomatic center, Walker's team had taken over a large conference room. The walls were covered with holographic displays showing data streams from both warring factions. Dr. Anna Thompson stood in the center, her hands moving through the air as she manipulated the information. "Look at this," she said, pulling apart a complex chart of resource distribution. Every peace talk in the last 300 years has failed because both sides start with the same wrong assumption. Her eyes sparkled with the excitement of discovery that had made her one of Earth's top cultural anthropologists. Commander Michael Stone leaned forward from his seat, his military training evident in his posture. They're so focused on who owned what centuries ago, they can't see what's in front of them. He pointed to a sector map. These disputed mining regions, they're arguing about rights to worlds that their own war has destroyed. Dr. Robert Green, who had spent the last year studying both crystalline and organic biology, nodded as he analyzed the data. It's like watching 2 people fight over a cake they've already burned. He paused, looking at a new data stream. But here's what's fascinating. Both species can actually help each other grow. Walker watched his team work, feeling proud of how quickly they'd pieced things together. Where alien diplomats saw centuries of complex negotiations, humans saw patterns that were surprisingly familiar. "Show me," Walker said, moving closer to the displays. Anna pulled up historical records from before the war. The Unity Collective's crystalline nature lets them survive in environments that would kill organic life, and the Alliance's adaptive biological systems can transform hostile environments into habitable ones. She smiled. They weren't just trading partners before the war. They were perfect companions in exploration and colonization. Then what went wrong? Tom asked from his corner of the room. Michael brought up battle records. Fear. The Unity discovered a way to grow crystals faster than ever before. The Alliance thought they were building weapons. The Alliance developed new rapid evolution techniques. The Unity assumed it was for biological weapons. He shook his head. Both sides were actually trying to expand into harsh environments. They just didn't trust each other enough to share their research. And now, Walker prompted. Robert displayed current scientific data. Now they're both stuck. The Unity can't expand efficiently without biological terraforming. The Alliance can't access many resource-rich worlds without crystal-based protection. They need each other, but 3 centuries of war have made them forget how to work together. Anna brought up population statistics. Here's the real problem: their lifespans. Both species live for centuries. The ones who started this war are still alive, still angry, still in power. They can't let go of old grudges because for them, these grudges are still fresh. Walker smiled. But we can see past that because we're young, Michael answered. Because we know life is short. Humans don't have centuries to hold grudges. We adapt, we forgive, we move forward because we have to. Tom looked worried. Will they listen to us? We're so new to everything. That's exactly why they might, Anna said. We're the first species in centuries to join the galactic community without picking a side in their war. We're neutral, but more than that, we're new. We see things they've stopped seeing. Robert brought up a new display, I've analyzed the resource distribution patterns. If they worked together like they used to, both sides would triple their expansion rate. Their competition for resources would end because they'd have more than enough space and materials for everyone. The question is, Michael added, how do we show them this in less than 23 hours? Walker looked at the Earth spinning below them through the window. We show them their own history. Anna hid every record of their pre-war cooperation. Michael find their joint military victories against outside threats. Robert prepared demonstrations of how their biology and crystal tech can work together. And then, Tom asked, then we do something they haven't done in centuries. Walker's eyes fixed on the distant stars. We make them sit down and actually talk to each other, not through diplomats, not through formal channels, but directly. And we don't let them leave until they see what we see. The team began their work with renewed energy. Outside, the Unity and Alliance ships still circled each other warily. But in this room, humans had already seen the path to peace. Now they just had to make two ancient enemies see it too, before the sun set on their chance to end this war. The demonstration hall of the Orbital Diplomatic Center hummed with tension as Walker stood before the gathered representatives. Behind him, a massive holographic display showed 3 star systems rotating slowly in space. 22 hours remained until sunset. Project Sunset isn't just a peace plan, Walker explained, his voice steady. It's a complete restructuring of how your civilizations interact. He nodded to Anna, who stepped forward with the first simulation. The hall darkened as the hologram shifted to show a complex network of trade routes and resource-sharing pathways. For centuries, you've fought over who controls what, Anna said. But you're asking the wrong question. It's not about control. It's about rotation. The Unity representative's crystalline form flickered with confusion. Rotation. Shared leadership, Michael explained, stepping up. Every Earth decade, control of major resource zones shifts between Unity and Alliance management. No permanent ownership, just temporary stewardship. The Alliance representative pulsed with what their translator indicated was dismissal. Such a system would never work. The transition periods alone already work perfectly, Robert interrupted, bringing up historical data. Before the war, you had joint mining operations that shifted seasonal control based on environmental conditions. It worked for 50 years without a single conflict. The aliens stirred uncomfortably. It was clear they hadn't expected humans to dig so deeply into their past. Walker pressed on. But that's just the beginning. Show them the resource bridge, Anna. The hologram transformed again, displaying a massive space station design. This is the heart of Project Sunset, Anna explained. A joint facility where both sides work together daily. Not just exchanging resources, but knowledge, research, ideas. Impossible, both alien representatives said almost in unison. Really, Michael brought up another historical record. Because you built something very similar 3 centuries ago. The Station of Unified Sciences. It produced more technological advances in 20 years than either of your civilizations has achieved in the centuries since. Tom, monitoring the aliens' reactions, noticed subtle shifts in their posture. The Unity representative's crystal structure showed traces of what humans had learned to recognize as nostalgia. The Alliance members' biological patterns displayed increased activity associated with memory recall. The difference now, Walker continued, is that we're not just proposing a station. We're proposing a network of them, each one specializing in different fields. Medicine, exploration, terraforming, energy production. Joint projects, joint benefits, joint glory. Robert stepped forward with new data. We've already identified 12 projects where immediate cooperation would benefit both sides. Like the Helios sector's dying star, the Unity can build containment structures, but only Alliance bioengineering can stabilize the stellar core. Or the Vega expansion, Anna added. The Alliance can terraform the planets, but only Unity crystal tech can shield the colonists from the region's radiation. Apart, both projects fail. Together, They open up 2 new sectors for both civilizations. The representatives stayed silent, but their body language showed they were listening more intently now. Walker knew it was time for the final push. "You're both so focused on winning," he said softly, "that you've forgotten what you're losing. Every year this war continues. Dozens of opportunities like these slip away. Worlds that could be paradise remain dead rocks. Discoveries that could save lives never happen. All because you're too busy fighting over the past to build a future." He gestured to the Earth spinning below. "Humans live barely a century. We don't have time for endless wars. When we see an opportunity, we take it. When we find a solution, we act on it." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We're offering you that solution now." The hologram shifted one final time, showing a document. The Sunset Accords. Simple, direct, and only 10 pages long. A peace treaty that could be read and understood in an hour, not the decades that most galactic agreements required. "Review it," Walker said. "Test our proposals in the demonstration zones we've prepared. But do it quickly." He looked both representatives in their equivalent of eyes. "Because in 21 hours, Earth's sun will set. And with it, this chance for peace." He turned to leave the hall, his team following. At the door, he stopped and looked back. "Oh, and one more thing. We've already leaked the full proposal to every civilian news network in both your civilizations. Right now, your people are seeing what's possible. They're seeing what peace looks like. The only question is, will you let them have it?" Behind him, the hologram continued to spin, showing worlds where crystalline and organic life work together once again. And for the first time in centuries, both the Unity and Alliance representatives stayed to watch, wondering if perhaps these strange, short-lived humans had found something their ancient civilizations had lost: hope. The next 3 hours passed in a blur of activity. Walker stood in the command center, watching multiple screens showing simultaneous demonstrations across 3 star systems. Tom rushed in with urgent news displayed on his tablet. "The Unity Council is furious," Tom reported, slightly out of breath. "They're saying we violated 16 different diplomatic protocols in the last hour alone." "Only 16. Michael grinned from his station. "We must be slowing down." On the main screen, Anna was leading an unauthorized tour of an abandoned Unity mining facility. She had brought young Unity scientists face to face with Alliance terraforming experts, ignoring centuries of protocol that required 17 layers of diplomatic clearance for such meetings. "Look at your own records." Anna's voice came through clearly as she showed them ancient machinery. These systems were designed to work together. Unity crystals powered Alliance biological processes. You didn't just cooperate, you thrived on it. In another system, Robert had done something even more dramatic. He had taken a mixed group of Unity and Alliance medical researchers to a planet suffering from a devastating plague. Right now, they were working together in an emergency field hospital, crystal and organic technology, combining to save lives. "Captain," a worried voice came through the comm. "The Alliance High Command is threatening sanctions against Earth for this breach of protocol." Walker smiled. "Tell them they'll have to wait until we finish saving their people." He turned to Michael. "How's the joint defense exercise going?" Michael pulled up another screen showing Unity and Alliance ships running rescue drills together. They complained for the first 10 minutes. Then a real distress call came in from a civilian transport. Now they're too busy working together to remember they're supposed to be enemies. 20 hours remained until sunset. Walker watched as centuries of careful diplomatic procedure crumbled in the face of practical necessity. On every screen, members of both civilizations were doing what their leaders had claimed was impossible. They were working together. "Sir," Tom called out, "you need to see this." He brought up social media feeds from both civilizations. The demonstrations had caught the public's attention. Millions were watching as their brightest minds collaborated for the first time in centuries. "The Unity's youth movement is organizing protests," Tom reported. "They're demanding their leaders accept the peace talks. The Alliance universities are even worse. Their students are already implementing parts of Project Sunset without waiting for approval. Walker nodded. This was exactly what they had hoped for. Any word from the demonstration at the old Unity Science Station. The screen switched to show a remarkable sight. Young Unity crystals and Alliance organic clusters were clearing out the ancient facility together. The station had been abandoned at the start of the war, but its foundations were still strong. Already, teams were talking excitedly about what they could achieve if it was restored. "We're getting requests from other systems," Michael reported. "They want to host demonstrations too. Seems everyone has an old cooperative project they'd like to restart." A warning alarm flashed. Tom checked the alert. "Multiple diplomatic vessels approaching Earth. Looks like both sides are sending their highest-ranking officials." "Right on schedule," Walker said quietly. The humans had known this would happen. Once the demonstrations began, once people saw what was possible, the leaders would have to respond. "Should we shut down the demonstrations?" Tom asked nervously. Walker shook his head. "No, keep them running. All of them." He looked at the countdown clock. "They can't stop what's already started. Their people have seen the truth. This war isn't protecting anyone. It's just getting in the way." On the screens, more stories were unfolding. A Unity crystal engineer had found a way to enhance Alliance environmental suits. Alliance biologists were developing new ways to grow Unity crystals. In a matter of hours, they had achieved more than their leaders had in decades of official negotiations. "Sir," Michael called out, "both sides are demanding we return their people and cease all demonstrations immediately." Walker looked at Earth's sun, slowly moving toward the horizon. "Tell them we'll be happy to discuss their demands." He paused. "Right after they review the peace proposal." Tom checked another alert. "Captain, I think they're going to try to shut us down by force." "No," Walker said confidently, watching the feeds from the demonstration sites. "They won't, because right now, their own people would stop them." He gestured to the screens showing Unity and Alliance citizens working side by side. "We've given them something more powerful than any weapon or protocol. We've given them hope, and they won't let anyone take that away." 15 hours remained until sunset when the emergency alarms blared through the orbital diplomatic center. Walker rushed to the main control room, where his team was already gathering. The huge display screen showed a massive stellar event unfolding in real time. "The Proxima Beta star is going supernova," Robert announced, his fingers flying over the controls. 3 Unity colonies and 2 Alliance outposts are in immediate danger. Neither side has enough ships in the area to evacuate everyone. Walker looked at the data streaming in. The star's death had been predicted, but not for another century. Nature, it seemed, had its own schedule. "How many people are we talking about?" 20,000 Unity citizens, 15,000 Alliance, Michael reported. "The radiation wave will hit their worlds in 10 hours. Tom's voice shook slightly. "Sir, both sides are mobilizing rescue fleets, but they're refusing to cooperate. They're each planning to save only their own people." Walker studied the map. Neither civilization could reach all their colonies in time working separately. But together, send them our analysis. Show them the numbers. Make it clear. Work together or watch their people die. The next hour was chaos. Unity and Alliance leaders argued while their people faced destruction. Walker watched the countdown clock. 14 hours until sunset, 9 hours until the radiation wave hit. Then something changed. "Sir," Tom called out excitedly, "look at this." On the screen, a young Unity commander had broken formation. Her crystal ship was approaching an Alliance outpost. Her message was simple: "We have room. We can help." Moments later, an Alliance biological ship captain made the same choice, heading for a Unity colony. "Our ships are faster through radiation fields. We can get your people out." Walker smiled. This was exactly what they had been waiting for. Proof that when real lives were at stake, artificial boundaries meant nothing. "Send everything we have to support them," he ordered. "Navigation data, coordination systems, whatever they need. Anna was already ahead of him. She had created a joint rescue operations center, linking Unity and Alliance ships together. On the screens, more captains were breaking ranks, ignoring their leaders' orders, choosing to save lives instead of maintaining old hatreds. Unity ships are extending crystal shields to protect Alliance vessels from radiation, Michael reported. Alliance ships are using their biological tech to stabilize Unity evacuation pods. The rescue operation became a dance of cooperation. Crystal ships formed protective barriers while organic vessels darted through, carrying evacuees. Technologies that had been used to fight each other for centuries were now combining to save lives. 8 hours until radiation impact, Tom announced. The clock also showed 12 hours until sunset. Walker watched as decades of distrust melted away in the face of necessity. In the command center, Unity and Alliance coordinators worked side by side, forgetting momentarily that they were supposed to be enemies. Their focus was purely on saving as many lives as possible. "Sir," Robert called out, "you need to see this." He brought up images from the evacuation zones. Unity crystals were growing protective shells around Alliance biological structures. Alliance organic tech was adapting to interface with Unity systems, making the evacuation faster and safer. "They're not just working together," Anna observed. "They're innovating, creating new solutions no one has tried before." The hours ticked by in a blur of activity. Unity and Alliance ships moved in perfect coordination, their crews too busy to remember their differences. Every few minutes brought news of another successful evacuation. With just 2 hours until the radiation wave hit, the last evacue was brought to safety. Not a single life was lost. Unity and Alliance ships floated together in space, their crews exhausted but proud. "Message from the Unity flagship," Tom reported, his voice full of awe. "They're thanking the Alliance ships for their help." The Alliance admiral just responded. "She's inviting the Unity crews to join them for a celebration." Walker looked at the clock. 10 hours remained until sunset. Send all the footage to both governments. Every second of cooperation, every moment of innovation, every life saved. He paused. "And remind them, this is what they could be doing all the time, instead of fighting." On the screen, Unity and Alliance ships were still working together, helping evacuees settle into temporary shelters. Their crews were sharing supplies, telling stories, finding out that their supposed enemies were not so different after all. "Captain," Michael said softly, "I think we just showed them something more important than any peace treaty." Walker nodded. "We showed them who they really are when they stopped trying to be enemies." He looked at Earth's sun, still moving steadily toward the horizon. "Now let's see if they remember this lesson when we present the final agreement." With 6 hours left until sunset, Walker stood aboard humanity's greatest gamble, the bridge. The massive space station hung in Earth orbit, constructed in secret over the past month. Its design combined Unity crystal technology with Alliance biological systems, created by human engineers who hadn't known it was supposed to be impossible. "The hardliners are here," Tom reported nervously. Through the station's windows, they could see ships arriving from both civilizations. Not the young captains who had worked together during the crisis, but the old guard, the ones who had spent centuries keeping the war alive. "Good," Walker said. "Let them come. Show them what we've built." The station's main chamber was a marvel of engineering. Crystal walls pulsed with organic energy, creating an environment where both species could exist comfortably. The human team had studied centuries of abandoned cooperative projects to make it work. The first group of Unity leaders arrived, their crystalline forms rigid with barely contained anger. "This station is an abomination," their leader declared. "Unity and Alliance technologies cannot safely coexist." Before Walker could respond, the Alliance delegation arrived. Their organic forms churned with similar disgust. "This human experiment risks both our civilizations," their speaker announced. Walker let them vent their outrage. Then he pressed a button, and the chamber's walls became transparent. Below them, Earth's sun continued its steady descent toward the horizon. But that wasn't what he wanted them to see. "Look there," he said, pointing to another part of the station. Through the crystal walls, they could see into a remarkable room. Young Unity scientists were working alongside Alliance researchers, the same ones who had saved lives together during the crisis. "They've been here for hours," Anna explained, "working on combining their technologies in ways no one has tried for centuries. Would you like to see what they've created?" The leaders didn't respond, but they didn't leave either. Walker led them through the station. In each section, they found more examples of cooperation. Unity crystals growing in patterns guided by Alliance biological processes. Alliance environmental systems protected and enhanced by Unity structures. "Impossible," the Unity leader stated, but his crystalline form showed signs of uncertainty. "Really?" Robert stepped forward with data displays. "Because they've already achieved more in 5 hours than either side has managed in decades of working separately." The displays showed the results. New medical treatments combining both species technologies, enhanced space drive systems, better ways to terraform hostile worlds. Solutions to problems both civilizations had struggled with for centuries. "This is what you've forgotten," Walker said quietly. "You're not enemies. You never were. You're two parts of the same whole. Different approaches to life, yes, but complementary, not contradictory." Tom's tablet beeped. "Sir, you need to see this." He showed Walker the latest news feeds. The story of the crisis response had spread throughout both civilizations. Billions were watching as their people worked together aboard the bridge. "Your people have already chosen," Michael added, addressing the leaders. "They're tired of fighting. They've seen what's possible when you work together." A small commotion at the chamber's entrance drew their attention. More ships had arrived, the captains and crews who had worked together during the evacuation. They walked in side by side, Unity and Alliance together, no longer caring about protocols or ancient hatreds. 4 hours until sunset," Tom announced quietly. The hardliners watched as their own people ignored the boundaries that had defined their civilizations for centuries. In the research labs, Unity and Alliance scientists called excitedly to each other, sharing discoveries. In the medical bay, they worked together to heal the injured from the evacuation. "The war ends today," Walker said firmly, "either by your choice or because your people will end it for you. They've seen the truth now. You can't make them unsee it." The Unity leader's crystalline form shifted, showing signs of deep thought. The Alliance speaker's organic patterns swirled with new rhythms. They watched as a young Unity crystal engineer excitedly explained a new idea to an Alliance biological specialist. Both of them focused only on the possibility of discovery. "Perhaps," the Unity leader said slowly, "we should review this peace proposal again." Walker nodded to Anna, who brought up the Sunset Accords. With 3 hours until sunset, the leaders who had kept the war alive for centuries finally sat down to talk, not through intermediaries or centuries-old protocols, but directly, honestly, about the future their people had already chosen. Outside the bridge's windows, Earth's sun continued its descent. But inside, centuries of darkness were finally giving way to a new dawn. 1 hour remained until sunset. The main chamber of the bridge hummed with energy as Walker uploaded the final version of the peace treaty. Around him, representatives from both civilizations gathered to witness what many had thought impossible just a day ago. "The resource-sharing algorithm is ready," Anna announced. She had spent the last 2 hours working with Unity and Alliance experts to perfect it. The system was elegantly simple. It used both species technologies to monitor and automatically adjust resource distribution based on actual needs rather than ancient territorial claims. "Show them," Walker said. The chamber's holographic display came to life, showing a real-time map of the galaxy. Points of light represented Unity and Alliance worlds, but instead of being separated by battle lines, they were now connected by gleaming threads of potential trade routes and cooperative zones. "Your civilizations have spent centuries fighting over resources," Walker explained. "This system lets you share them instead. But more importantly, it lets you share knowledge. Robert stepped forward with the medical research team's results. In just a few hours, they had developed cures for 3 diseases that had plagued both species for generations. "This is what cooperation looks like," he said, "not just sharing what you have, but creating something new together." The Unity leader's crystalline form sparkled with what humans had learned was interest, and this system would be managed jointly. "Better than that," Michael said. He brought up the station's schematics. "The bridge isn't just one station. It's the prototype for a network. Each station will be a joint research center, a trading hub, and a meeting place. Unity and Alliance, working side by side, every day." Tom's tablet showed feeds from across both civilizations. The public response to the day's events had become overwhelming. The successful evacuation, the scientific breakthroughs, the images of cooperation. People were celebrating in the streets of 1,000 worlds. 45 minutes until sunset, Anna announced quietly. The Alliance speaker's organic patterns shifted thoughtfully. "Our people seem to have made their choice clear." Walker nodded. "They remember who you were before the war, and now they've seen who you can be after it." The chamber's screen showed more results from the day's cooperation. Unity crystals were being used to enhance Alliance environmental systems. Alliance biological processes were helping Unity structures adapt and grow. Technologies that had been used for war were being transformed into tools for progress. "The treaty is simple," Walker said, displaying the document. 10 pages, written in clear language that anyone can understand. No hidden clauses, no complex diplomatic phrases, just a straightforward path to peace. The leaders studied the document. 3 centuries of war, about to end with a few signatures. It seemed almost too simple. "And Earth's role in this?" the Unity leader asked. "We'll help establish the station network, provide neutral ground when needed. But this isn't about us." Walker gestured to the young Unity and Alliance members working together throughout the station. "This is about your people building a future together." 30 minutes until sunset, Tom announced. The Alliance speaker's patterns showed decision. "Our evacuation teams are already acting as if peace exists. Our scientists are sharing discoveries. Our people are celebrating together." Indeed, the Unity leader's crystal form pulsed with new colors. "Perhaps it is time we caught up with them." Walker handed them the treaty tablets. Outside the station's windows, Earth's sun touched the horizon, beginning its final descent of the day. Inside, centuries of hatred and fear began to fade as 2 ancient enemies chose a new path. The Unity leader pressed his crystalline form to the tablet, leaving the unique energy signature. The Alliance speaker touched it with an organic tendril, adding their own distinct pattern. Throughout the chamber, other leaders stepped forward to add their marks. 5 minutes until sunset, Tom said softly. The treaty was passed from hand to hand, crystal to organic matter, until every representative had signed. As the last signature was added, cheers erupted throughout the station. The sound was echoed across communication channels from countless worlds. Walker looked at Earth's sun, now barely visible above the horizon. "Send the signal," he ordered. Throughout the galaxy, Unity and Alliance ships powered down their weapons. Military installations began converting to research centers. The machinery of war fell silent for the first time in 3 centuries. 1 minute until sunset, Tom announced. Walker stood with his team, watching the final rays of sunlight paint the sky. Around them, Unity and Alliance members were already making plans for tomorrow. Joint projects, shared discoveries, new possibilities. Did we really just end a 300-year war in 24 hours? Tom asked in wonder. Walker smiled as Earth's sun finally slipped below the horizon, leaving them in the light of distant stars. "No," he said, "they ended it themselves. We just reminded them that they could." In the darkness of space, the bridge glowed with combined Unity crystal and Alliance organic light, a beacon of cooperation shining through the night, promising a brighter dawn for the entire galaxy.